Hello everyone, it's Kitti. Spring has arrived in Jorvik once more. The flowers are blooming all across the island, and the sun's radiance blankets us in warmth. Yet, I can't help but remember a time, not too long ago, where I was spending the season searching for golden Easter eggs. Or perhaps wearing masks shaped like bunny rabbits with my friends, and waking up one morning on the 1st of April, logging on only to be surprised with wacky colored horses. Unfortunately, these traditions have remained absent for the past 5 years, which has led the community to wonder what happened to Easter and April Fool's Day. While the rest of the world is celebrating the holiday by going on egg hunts, decorating their houses in spring-inspired pastel embellishments, and inviting their family over to feast, Jorvik is left empty and barren, with only a memory of what once was. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of this mystery, as well as reminisce on the celebrations of the past. So without further ado, let's hop to it. Easter came to Jorvik on March 27th, 2013, in the form of egg hunts hosted by various NPCs all across the island, such as Felix of Silverglade, the security guard of Fort Pinta Disco, Mrs. Holdsworth, and many more. Select egg hunts would reward you with exclusive Easter-themed clothes and tack, like this dazzling yellow and white set. Events such as Valentine's Day and Midsummer were also introduced in 2013, and it can be said that the decorative aspect of these holidays were lacking the first time around. Easter was no different, as the pastel decorations we have come to adore would not be present until the following year. Until then, 5 days into Easter's first year on Jorvik, we are presented with another memorable event that would later become a Jorvigan tradition. April 1st, 2013, better known as April Fool's Day. The average Star Stable player wakes up first thing in the morning to log on to Star Stable Online, only to be greeted with unusual colored horses. Blue, yellow, and green steeds wandered the island and left us in confusion. It turns out a mysterious little pink rabbit had arrived in Nomer's Highland for 1 day only. If you interact with the pink rabbit, it will turn your horse into an abnormal color. Color variations such as yellow with purple polka dots, green with pink stars, and a regular blue were available to experiment with. Star Stable's first April Fool's Day was so bizarre and unexpected, but was an ultimate success with the community. Once the peculiar holiday came and went, players were already looking forward to what next year's April Fool's Day would bring. After a memorable wintertime in Jorvik, the snow began to melt away, revealing Jorvik's gorgeous landscapes in full bloom. Around this time, most players were occupied with finding Lisa, overlooking the fact that April was swiftly approaching. April Fool's Day had returned to Jorvik with brand new tricks. Star Stable had truly upped their game from the previous year. Of course, a new generation of Star Stable players who weren't around to experience the first April Fool's Day arrived online just as confused as the first generation were. The pink rabbit became reacquainted in Nomer's Highland, and even brought friends along with him to accompany places like Moorland and Steve's Farm. 3 new color variations were made available to transform your starter horse with. Some adorable pink hearts, a cloudy blue sky with rainbows, and a gorgeous blue galaxy. Fan favorite color variations from the previous year also made a return. All you had to do was talk to the pink rabbit to begin customizing your horse. If you thought the abnormally colored horses was bizarre, imagine our reaction to seeing all of the NPCs in Silverglade Village replaced by Carney, Marley, and Courtney. Star Stable wrote in a social media post, "We've received so much positive feedback on our most popular characters in the game that we've decided to make a major change. All characters in the game will gradually be replaced by Barney, Carney, Marley, and Courtney. Due to their enormous popularity, we see no reason to keep other characters around." This was Star Stable's first attempt at an April Fool's Day prank, which later became an April Fool's Day tradition every year. Star Stable cleared the air a day later on social media, claiming that the NPC replacement was all a prank. They had truly outdone themselves this year, but now it's time to turn our focus towards egg hunts and bunny masks. On April 16th, 2014, Easter returned to Jorvik for the second year in a row. The previous traditions of embarking on egg hunts with various NPCs had made a comeback, alongside a new activity, hunting for golden Easter eggs all across the island. Golden Easter eggs will be placed in obscure places and wouldn't need a quest to activate them. When entering an area containing a golden Easter egg, a notification will appear on your screen informing you that there is a golden egg nearby. By participating in Easter activities, you could collect rewards such as Easter-themed masks, various treats for you and your horse, and the brand new 2014 Easter set. If you missed out on last year's set, it was made available for purchase in the brand new Easter shop. One of the most important details to acknowledge about this year is that Star Stable had finally decorated populated areas of Jorvik with pastel plants and decorative eggs, creating an immersive environment for the entire community. Star Stable did a great job at establishing memorable traditions and activities for these holidays in 2014. How could they possibly manage to outdo themselves next year? In 2015, a miracle had occurred. April Fool's Day had fallen on a Wednesday, which only meant one thing. For the first time in Star Stable history, April Fool's Day and Easter had collided. This announcement quickly sent the community into excitement, anticipating the moment where we can embark on egg hunts with our uniquely colored horses. Upon logging in, the excitement quickly dwindled, as we were presented with a pop-up explaining that the sun had been taken out of Star Stable to preserve energy. Once we dismiss the pop-up and take a few steps around the darkened atmosphere, the sunlight is restored. We learn that this was all just a silly April Fool's prank from the Star Stable team. I commend them for keeping the tradition alive. The pink April Fool's bunny hopped back into Jorvik to provide his color-changing services for your starter horse. He brought with him a few new color variations, blue bubbles and green leaves. The locals of Jorvik were ready to offer an exciting egg hunt in locations such as Fir Grove, Cape West Fishing Village, Moorland, and many more. The golden Easter egg hunt had returned to Jorvik. 15 golden eggs were placed in obscure locations all across the island. Once discovered, you would be rewarded in items ranging from treats for you and your horse to Easter-themed attire. Select egg hunts would reward you with items from the new 2015 Easter set, which hosted an assortment of color and flair. If you missed out on the Easter sets from previous years, Each village had their own limited time Easter shop you could browse through. To strengthen the Easter spirit, the stables and villages of Jorvik were once again decorated in pastel flowers and decorative eggs. April Fool's Day celebrations had ended after 24 hours, but the Easter festival was scheduled to last for 2 weeks. All in all, this was one of the most colorful and eventful holidays in Star Stable history. Easter had truly set the standard for events going forward in 2015. The April Fool's Day prank this year was admittedly pretty clever, and it made us wonder what they had up their sleeve for next year. Following the exhilarant release of Epona just a few months earlier, Easter had returned to Jorvik on March 23, 2016. The islanders had prepared traditional egg hunts, the exclusive shops were reacquainted, and the Easter Bunny had left secret golden eggs to be found all across Jorvik. Every activity from the previous year had returned, along with new rewards and attire. And we cannot forget the colorful decorations adorning the stables and villages. Nothing notable was added this year in terms of Easter celebration, though the real fun would arrive a few days later. For once, Jorvik seemed normal on April Fool's Day. It left us wondering if they had even bothered implementing a prank this year. That is, until you make a trip to Fort Pinta. Star Stable's newest horse release, the Supershire, was positioned there. The Supershire was retailed at 25 star coins and available for players level 1205. This horse possessed ungodly stats, with plus 612 swiftness and plus 987 strength. The Supershire strayed pretty far away from Star Stable standards, leading us all to conclude that this was their April Fool's Day prank to the players. I believe I speak for a lot of players when I say that this was, to this day, the most memorable April Fool's prank to date. The only time I remember leaving Fort Pinta this day was to go and change my horse's color in Nilmer's Highland. Oh, and by the way, the Pink Bunny had made his annual trip to Jorvik on April Fool's Day. He brought a new purple Cosmos color for our starter horse. It was sad to see the Supershire go. Many players were still lingering around Fort Pinta the next day. We could only imagine what Star Stable had envisioned for next year. Admittedly, we all had a little trouble learning the ropes of Star Stable Online when we had first joined. Some of us still struggle to this day, and just wish there was someone there to guide us. I don't know about you, but when I'm at the lowest point in my life, I use musical remedies. More specifically, I listen to Raptor. His melodical excellence melts away my pain like no other. Players who had felt defeated by Star Stable's confusing system logged in on April 1st, 2017, only to have their prayers answered. Star Stable was enrolling a new guidance feature, the Artificial Power Raptor Intelligence Logic. When activated, the legendary rapper from Jorvik City, Raptor, would fly to your rescue. He would offer you helpful insight into playing Star Stable with ease. Raptor would make sure you stay on track with your quests, and loves when you ride into populated areas, as he was surrounded by his fans. Along the way, did you realize that the Artificial Power Raptor Intelligence Logic can be abbreviated to April? As in April Fools? If it wasn't obvious from the silly nature of this feature, this was Star Stable's traditional April Fool's Day prank for the players. They had some pretty big shoes to fill from last year, but this prank was pretty remarkable. The dialogue Raptor would produce had me laughing out loud. Raptor was particularly impressed by the pink bunny, who had returned for April Fool's Day with a brand new quirky color for our starter horse. You've heard of dappled gray? Now, get ready for dappled purple. As per springtime tradition, Easter made its way back to Jorvik on April 12, 2017. The annual egg hunt had begun, and it was time to collect some new rewards. Star Stable had recently given the community a new place to discover towards the end of 2016. Jorvik City. Some of the residents of the city wanted to host a new egg hunt for us to take part in this year. Leonardo of Governor's Fall and Iris of Adian's Plaza had hidden some Easter eggs around town for us to find. The villages and stables of Jorvik had been adorned with an arrangement of pastel decorations for the holiday. Easter shops had been placed in various locations all across the island. And for a limited time only, you could purchase a baby chick for your saddlebag. Star Stable's first ever exclusive Easter pet. Easter arrived in a somewhat unfamiliar fashion on March 27, 2018. Star Stable had made the executive decision to temporarily rename Easter to the Jorvik Egg Hunt. Fans theorized that this decision was made to avoid any dispute, seeing as Easter is considered a religious holiday. This was an attempt at becoming more inclusive for players of all backgrounds, which is always commendable. Despite the revamp, all of the acquainted activities from the previous years had made a return. The citizens of Jorvik had begun the egg hunt, and new rewards were available to collect. If you had missed out on the rewards from previous years, they could be found in the Easter shop for a limited time, along with the adorable baby chick from last year. The debut of an area we have become quite familiar with over the years, collaborated with the Jorvik Egg Hunt during this update. Mika Stoneground was prepared to take us on a hot air balloon ride to the Cloud Kingdom, where we would embark on a Mario Kart-inspired race in the sky. Unexpectedly, the magical pink bunny arrived in Jorvik a day earlier than usual. Players were able to customize their starter horses with wacky colors once more on March 31st. One day later, on April 1st, Star Stable announced in a social media post that their traditional April Fool's Day prank had backfired and was not safe to implement into the game yet. Star Stable promised the community that they would make up for this unfortunate circumstance by postponing the event to May 1st. When the date arrived, players were greeted with a message explaining that Star Stable had introduced yet another feature with our convenience in mind. Confused, we dismissed the message, and just as we're about to go on with our day, our character's head starts to inflate. How surprising! After taking a few steps, we are notified that this was Star Stable's annual April Fool's Day prank. A button to toggle this unusual feature would be provided as well. This feature could only be enjoyed on your own, as you are unable to see other players' inflated heads. This becomes a common theme going forward with April Fool's Day pranks. Better late than never, right? This must have been a pretty challenging feature to implement, but I'm glad they followed through with it. The Super Shire had yet to be rivaled as the best April Fool's Day prank in Star Stable. While Flying Raptor and Bobbleheads were great additions, we have yet to find a contender to the Super Shire. Until April 1st, 2019. Star Stable was fed up with the criticism, the bullying, the death threats. They were ready to leave equestrianism behind and debut Car Stable. For one day only, you could transform your horse into an automobile. This April Fool's Day was so well executed that many players say that this was their favorite prank. The only downside to this feature was that you were unable to see other people driving in their cars. But we didn't let that distract us from the pure amazement this feature offered. You may be wondering where the magical pink bunny was during all of this. If there were no horses to customize during Car Stable, then the bunny's services were obsolete. We later found out that the traditional April Fool's Day bunny had retired. We were no longer able to change our horse's coat into crazy colors. This was truly the end of an era. Once an April Fool's Day tradition became lost to time. I hope that one day the pink bunny returns to Jorvik, and we are able to give our starter horses an April Fool's Day makeover once more. Easter made its final appearance in Jorvik on April 16, 2019. At the time, we were not made aware that this event would not be returning next year. The previous alias of Jorvik Egg Hunt had been retired after 1 year, as the event was once again referred to as Easter. As always, the annual Easter egg hunt began with Felix of Silverglade. Easter shops were available to browse through in various locations of Jorvik, including popular areas such as Silverglade, Fort Pinta, and Moorland. This was the community's last chance to purchase exclusive Easter items like the chicken helmets, bunny masks, and the baby chick that rests in your saddlebag. Drastic changes were being made to Jorvik's landscape during 2019, so presumably, Star Stable didn't have a chance to decorate the island to its full extent for Easter. It has become a common theme for events that have been withdrawn from Star Stable. Near the end of their lifespan, the magic that they once held just fizzles out. This had become apparent with Easter, whether it be the lack of new rewards or absence of decorations. It was sad to watch, considering the potential it once had. Truthfully, I am under the impression that events in Star Stable nowadays are only worthy of keeping if they offer financial gain for the company. That is why we are presented with the concept of limited edition horses every year, which is, in long term, a genius business strategy. Selling horses that practically have a countdown over their heads, the limited time pressure weighs on players and only strengthens FOMO. You can't fathom waiting a whole year to see this horse again and eventually cave. They have even went as far as to offer limited edition pets and clothes during events, all with a high price tag. I know it seems like I'm criticizing them for this strategy, but I actually don't mind. The part that bothers me the most is when the only component of an event that had the most effort put into it is the horses. When the company prioritizes horses over activities, decorations, quests, the overall event becomes stale pretty quickly. Most of the hype and promotion is directed towards the newest horse that will be coming out during the event, and it makes the community feel like in order to enjoy the event to its fullest extent, you have to buy the horse. Last year, the Lipizzaner was released during the Equestrian Festival and was arguably the most hyped up part of the event. Along came the Rainbow Festival. Prisma and Tenebrae were released during the first week. Camp Western brought us 8 new coat variations for pre-existing horse breeds. Additionally, the birthday event gave us a new American paint horse during the 3rd week. Halloween offered Audra and Elvira, 2 new magic horses with matching pets. And finally, The Winter Festival debuted 2 new magic horses and additional coat variations for the Icelandic horse and Shire. Don't get me wrong, Star Stable has a history of releasing horses during a popular time of year, like the first generation Arabian horse that was released during Christmas of 2013. But lately, the focus has been exclusively directed towards horses, and overall what sells the most. Growing up, I had looked forward to Easter in Star Stable every year. What Easter meant to me was colorful decorations spread out all across the island. Determined to collect the new clothing set from egg hunts, going on trail rides across Jorvik with my friends in search of the golden eggs, and dressing up my character with silly masks. Not to mention, pranking my friends with my wacky colored horse on April Fool's Day, and experimenting with the mane and coat combinations. The feeling of confusion and surprise I had from experiencing my first April Fools on Star Stable is irreplaceable. Star Stable had nothing to gain from implementing these Easter activities and April Fool's Day pranks, except a happy community. And I would be more than okay with them reintroducing these events and activities, as long as the attention is divided equally. Before we dive further into this analysis, we must review the last April Fool's Day event in Star Stable. While Easter was not destined to make a return in 2020, April Fool's Day luckily was. Star Stable had once again rebranded into Small Stable. The ability to miniaturize was available for one day only. And while you weren't able to see other players shrunken down, it was still a pretty entertaining feature. Once again, we were not made aware that this would have been the final April Fool's Day celebration in Star Stable. And honestly, I don't think Star Stable themselves knew either. 2020 was an excellent year in terms of Star Stable's financial growth and active player count. And I think we all know why. Allegedly, they faced a devastating financial crash the following year, which caused them to leave behind other events, increase Star Coin and Star Rider prices by 10%, and release new horses at an accelerated rate in an attempt at meeting their annual quota. For reference, Star Stable had accumulated over $44 million in 2020, and in 2021, a mere $18 million. It's important to note that over 15% of their company had been laid off around this time, too. I don't think Star Stable necessarily wanted to leave April Fools behind, but considering how they were struggling, didn't have much of a choice. Easter, on the other hand, may have been purposefully removed following their promise to make Star Stable more inclusive to all religious backgrounds. Star Stable issued a response to a player on Instagram in March of 2021, asking if there will be an April Fool's prank in Jorvik this year. To which the team responded, "We have had a lot of fun previous years with April Fools, but it is a lot of work for just one day. Instead, the team is putting that effort into working on new quests and things to do in the game that many of you have been telling us you would like to see more of." And from there on out, Star Stable began to integrate seasonal festivals that would last nearly a month, completely disregarding all previous events, with the exception of Halloween and Christmas. To this day, players still wonder where Easter and April Fools have gone. Righteously, it's well known that Star Stable used to host these events that are based off of popular holidays in real life, which only strengthens anticipation and desire. Players know what to expect from these events, since they are commonly celebrated in the real world, whereas the Equestrian Festival is a little more niche, and may take more to convince players that this event is worth celebrating. I believe that above all, Newer players are sad to have missed out on Easter and April Fool's Day in Star Stable. They deserve to experience these events too. My solution would be to reintroduce the Jorvik Egg Hunt in replacement of Easter. The same activities, just under a different name. April Fool's Day needs to make a comeback too. It is one of the silliest and most lighthearted days of the year in Star Stable. Even if jokes from the previous years are recycled, this would mean those who missed out would get a chance to experience these pranks for the first time. Star Stable recently invited us to experience some old April Fool's Day pranks during their birthday event last year. Proof that they still have the tools needed to make this event possible. And I would love to see what our current starter horse looks like with all of the bizarre colors that the magical pink bunny has to offer. That's all I have for you today. I hope this brought some clarity as to where Easter and April Fool's Day have been these past few years. And I can only hope that one day we'll reunite with these very special events. What was your favorite April Fool's Day prank? I would love to know. Feel free to share some of your Easter stories in Star Stable as well. For my new sprouts, my channel is dedicated to posting documentaries regarding the history and nostalgia of Star Stable Online. My documentaries serve as great background noise to accompany you while training your horses. The nostalgia doesn't stop there. I'm also available on Instagram. The link will be available in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next documentary. This has been Kitti Spiderweb, signing out.